Okay, so here's a thought. What if the real control over your life, what if it isn't about changing all the stuff around you, but like understanding something really fundamental, something so close you might not even notice it?
Right, something that's right there, almost hidden in plain sight.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into exactly that, a concept called the state.
And its huge role, really, in shaping your reality, but from the inside out.
And our mission, as always, is to unpack the key insights, this time from a really interesting source. The Conscious Guide to Manifesting Your Reality from the Inside Out, Part 3, The State. It's from the Mystical Abundance blog.
It's fascinating because, so many of us go through life feeling like, like passengers.
Just reacting.
Yeah, reacting as if things are just constantly happening to us, like we're sort of at the mercy of circumstances.
Right. And this deep dive, this idea of the state, it promises a totally different way of looking at it, doesn't it? A revolutionary one almost.
It really does. It flips that script completely.
And that's where it gets really profound. Because according to this view, you're not just a character swept along in the story.
No, not at all.
You're somehow simultaneously the writer, the actor, the director, even the observer watching it all, and ultimately the creator of the whole experience.
It's a massive shift in perspective, going from being a passenger to, like you said, holding the steering wheel.
It really is. It's a huge reorientation. Because think about it. So many people spend their lives chasing external things. Right?
Bro, absolutely. The right job, the perfect partner, the ideal location, always thinking that will bring the inner peace.
But this insight, it just turns that completely on its head.
Totally. It reverses that whole cause and effect chain we usually assume.
Well, so here's the kicker from the Mystical Abundance blog. It's not the external stuff, the job, the relationship that brings you peace. It's the peace itself, the inner state, that actually draws those desired external things to you.
That's the recalibration. It starts inside.
Which connects back perfectly to what we've talked about before in the earlier parts of this series.
Exactly. Remember our chats about the subject, the conscious observer?
Yeah, distinguishing that from the character or the circumstances.
Right. You as the subject, you're not your thoughts, you're not the situation, you're not even the personality you present, you're the awareness behind it all.
The one watching the movie unfold.
Precisely. The director watching their own film.
So, okay, the core shift isn't just some abstract idea, it's practical. It's moving from life happens to me
to knowing life happens through me because I am the cause, in a way.
Right. But once you grasp that, the big question is how? What's the mechanism? How does that actually work?
And that right there is where the state becomes the key.
Okay, let's get into it. What exactly is the state?
So the Mystical Abundance blog defines it as, the condition or the activity, expression, behavior, basically how the object appears.
The object being whatever I'm focused on.
Exactly. Whatever you're observing, how that object appears to you, the subject, the conscious observer right now in this present moment.
So it's really about my perception of the thing, the quality of my observation almost.
That's a great way to put it. It's the quality of the condition, the activity as perceived by you. And a common trap here is thinking the object has to be something external, like a person or a situation. But the object can be internal, too. It could be a thought you're observing, a feeling, like anxiety. If you're observing anxiety, that anxiety is the object in that moment.
Okay, got it. So my state is how I'm experiencing that anxiety then.
Exactly. And this state, it has two sides, two worlds it operates in.
Okay.
First, there's your inner world. The blog calls this your mental framework.
So thoughts, feelings.
Thoughts, feelings, attitude, your expectations, beliefs, values, all that internal architecture. This ties right into the stuff we discussed about rewiring your mind for abundance.
Makes sense. And the second world.
That's your outer world. This is everything external that's in your awareness.
Like people, places, situations.
People, your environment, circumstances, experiences showing up, possibilities, opportunities, everything out there that you're conscious of.
Okay. So the state is the mechanism, the lens through which I interpret and experience both my inner and outer worlds.
Precisely. It's the fundamental interface. And here's the powerful part. By becoming aware of the state of your mental framework, the inner world, you gain the ability, the power to consciously change the parts that aren't aligned with what you want.
So you notice the inner state, And if it's not serving you, you can shift it.
You can intentionally shift it. And that interchange initiates the process that then reflects out into your outer experience. That's the how that's manifesting from the inside out.
The blog has such a great analogy for this, the lighting department. I love that.
Yeah, it's very visual, isn't it?
It really is. The state is like the emotional tone, the atmosphere, the lighting of whatever scene is playing out in your life right now.
Mm-hmm. And while it might feel like things are just happening to you,
Yeah, the usual feeling.
the deeper question this perspective pushes you to ask is, what if the state of who you are being, your inner emotional lighting, is actually causing how it all plays out?
Wow. Okay. So like other people are just playing roles in my scene based on the lighting I've set.
That's the provocative idea. What if your inner state is essentially directing their lines, their actions within your reality?
Hey, that's huge because it implies that changing your inner state literally changes the story.
It absolutely does. The same scene can take on totally new meaning. Characters might say different things, conflicts you thought were stuck. They can just resolve differently.
And new possibilities just pop up.
Exactly, because you've shifted the underlying emotional frequency, the lighting of the scene.
It connects right back to what we've discussed about elevated emotions creating that magnetic pull, that heartbeat of abundance. It's not about forcing things.
No.
It's about setting the right inner atmosphere, the right state for what you desire to naturally show up.
And this understanding is also key for moving from resistance to flow, which is another big theme.
Right. The old way is being stuck in resistance, feeling blocked.
And that resistance, it blinds you, doesn't it, to truth, to opportunities that might be right there.
Yeah, you just can't see them.
But the blog suggests that when you become open, relaxed, at peace, and crucially, when you become consciously aware of that resistance that was blinding you,
It loses its power.
it stops concealing the truth. Your vision clears up, opens up to this huge field of possibilities that was always there.
And then you enter that more elevated state where things just feel lighter, more workable.
Exactly, more fluid. Even challenges feel different. So when you boil it all down,
Not the world out there that needs fixing.
no, it's your relationship to it, your inner state regarding it.
So surrendering the clinging, letting go of trying to force things.
Right, allowing that inner flow. That's what inspires the right actions, the actions that feel aligned, not forced.
And this connects to shifting from stress to creative flow, like we talked about before.
Directly. That shift lets you finally see the choices, the possibilities, the freedom that was actually always present. You just couldn't perceive it before because of the resistance state.
And the life you want starts unfolding through you, not because you battered down the door.
Precisely. It flows naturally from your aligned state.
Okay, so the absolute key here seems to be becoming aware. Aware of your state in the present moment.
That's the linchpin. But it's tricky, right? Most people are so caught up in the drama.
Yeah, lost in the whirlwind.
The whirlwind of situations, things that seem beyond their control. They can't step back and just observe objectively.
They're acting like the character who's completely lost in the plot.
Totally unaware that they're also the director who could literally change the scene.
So what can you notice when you step back into that conscious observer role?
Well, you can start to notice the specifics. The state of your inner world, what thoughts are running the show.
Dominant thoughts, yeah.
What emotions are coloring everything? What beliefs are acting like filters on your perception?
Okay, the inner stuff
Yeah.
and then the outer.
Then you notice the reflection. How are people responding to you, really? What circumstances keep showing up? What kinds of opportunities or challenges are presenting themselves?
And noticing the link between the two.
That's the crucial part, observing the dynamic interplay. How does a shift inside immediately ripple outwards, and how do external events trigger those inner conditions?
Like watching a live feedback loop. Inner state, outer reflection,
Yeah.
inner reaction.
Exactly. And becoming aware of that loop, that dynamic, that gives you access to what the blog calls the control room of your experience.
The control room, I like that.
Yeah, because that's the place where you see your inner world actively creating your outer world in real time.
And that's how you draw your desired reality, by consciously aligning the inner state.
Yes, you align your inner state and your external world naturally begins to reorganize itself around that new state. It's a mechanism, not magic.
And that immediate awareness, right now, that's everything, because that's how you interrupt the old programming.
That's where conscious creation actually happens. Not someday, but now. By noticing and choosing your state in this moment.
So reclaiming your power.
Absolutely. When you step back into that seat of awareness, recognize yourself as the conscious observer of your state. You're reclaiming your role as the director.
You're no longer just reacting, no longer at the mercy of old patterns or what's happening out there.
Exactly. The whirlwind doesn't control you anymore.
So let's really land this. The state isn't something that just randomly happens to you.
No, it's something you are consciously or unconsciously creating and maintaining moment by moment.
And it's the vital bridge, isn't it? Between the inner world thoughts, feelings, and the outer world experiences, circumstances.
It's the interface. And becoming aware of it, learning to consciously choose and shift it, that's how you become the architect of your reality.
Okay, so for you listening right now, just take a second. How could knowing this, really knowing this, change your day-to-day?
Reflect on maybe times you've let external stuff totally dictate your inner state. You know, that traffic jam that just wrecked your whole morning mood.
Or a random comment from someone that just threw you off all day.
Exactly. Now imagine consciously choosing your state instead, choosing that inner lighting. How might that transform your experience of, well, everything? Relationships, work, health, even when the external stuff is challenging.
It really shifts the focus to what you can control your inner response, your state.
And this idea ties perfectly into something bigger, too. This notion that abundance isn't something you chase and get.
Right.
It's something you become. It's about embodying a certain state so consistently.
That it becomes your default, your reality's blueprint.
Precisely. And actually, that's exactly where the next part of the Mystical Abundance series goes.
Oh, perfect tease.
Yeah, we'll be diving into the concept of state of being, how a sustained state transitions into your actual identity.
And becomes the foundation, the blueprint for the reality you consistently experience.
Exactly. How the state you embody is the reality you manifest.
That sounds fascinating.
Okay.
Okay, so if this whole discussion on the state resonates with you listening,
Maybe just take a moment right now. Just observe your current state. No judgment. Just notice.
what thoughts are present? What's the emotional tone? How does that feel reflected in your immediate experience?
And if you know someone who feels ready to step out of being a character and into being the director of their own life.
Maybe share this deep dive with them. They might be ready to unlock the power of their own state.
Definitely. And you can find more insights and the original blog posts at mysticalabundance.blogspot.com. They're also on social media at mysticalabundance1111.
Yeah, check them out. And if you found this valuable, please like, comment, subscribe, share the message. Help us get these ideas out there.
Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us for this deep dive today.